I do love when a haunted location embraces the fact that it's haunted. Such is the case for this charming little eatery with a fantastic backstory to its name. Poogan's Porch Restaurant was first conceived in 1976 when Bobby and Chuck Ball first bought the house at 72 Queen Street. The historic home had a long history, having first been built 90 years before in 1886. When Bobby and Chuck first purchased the grand old house, it was being utilized as a storage building for the hotel across the street. Before that, it spent part of its lifetime as apartments, and it was during this part in its lifespan it acquired at least two of its resident spirits. Zoe St. Armand, by all accounts, was a spinster, as was her sister, Elizabeth St. Armand. The two lived in an upper-floor apartment in the old house for many years together. During her time living in the house, Zoe worked as a teacher, and indeed, though she passed after her sister Liz in 1954, it would seem she and her cat never left the old house. There are photographs of all the restaurant's resident ghosts as you step inside the front door, on the wall to your left as you approach the host's stand. So too are the walls lined with menus signed by all sorts of celebrities, but it's the first two photo frames that interested me the most. They show a lovable-looking dog who happens to be how the restaurant got its whimsical name. You see, when Bobby and Chuck Ball first bought the house, it seemed to come with the abandoned little dog who also happened to be the goodest of boys. All he was interested in was laying on the front porch all day, greeting contractors and eventually guests as they entered the restaurant that Bobby and Chuck had built within the old house. To this day, in honor of Poogan the dog, Poogan's Porch is a dog-friendly dining establishment, with the back porch seating for you and your pooch, if you so choose. To this day, guests visiting the restaurant will, on occasion, remark about the adorable friendly little dog to the host or hostess on duty and ask if he just likes to chill on the front porch. Of course, the original Poogan passed away just 3 years after the gutting and construction of the restaurant that endures as a beloved spot within Charleston's historic district. He passed away sometime in 1979. Poogan is but one of two animal ghosts within Poogan's Porch. It is believed that Zoe St. Armand's beloved cat still haunts the premises. People have reported feeling the sensation of a cat brush up against their legs under the table, but of course, when they look, nothing is there. Additionally, the cat has been spotted from the street below, perched along the railing of either the upper or lower porch, depending on its preference. There is a photo of the cat, along with photos of the restaurant's namesake in those frames I mentioned, just inside the front door. But it's the photos of the iron-haired, smiling woman in black that catches most patrons' eyes. This is Zoe St. Armand, and she is the resident human ghost of Poogan's Porch. She has been reportedly responsible for all kinds of paranormal activity. One such story was related to me by Emily, one of the bartenders on duty one of the nights I dined at Poogan's Porch myself. She said that it was around Christmas and one of the hostesses watched as all of the glasses hanging above the bar in one of the racks were seemingly grabbed and run out of the rack, the whole line of them sliding as though pushed or pulled to crash on the floor behind the bar. Other closing staff members report lights turning out and doors slamming shut of their own volition. Indeed, as Emily related these events to me, the lights above and behind the bar started to strobe and flicker. When I pointed it out, Emily smiled as she busily moved around, pouring drinks for waitstaff and patrons, and said, "Oh yeah, the lights flicker. Pretty sure she knows we're talking about her, and she's letting us know." Later on, when I used the back ladies' room on the second floor at Emily's suggestion, I was alone at the sink and tried speaking directly to Ms. St. Armand. I asked if she was present, and the light in one of the electronic sconces to either side of the bathroom mirror flickered noticeably. Emily had suggested this area of the restaurant as it was closest to the rooms that Zoe and her sister Liz had occupied when they lived on one of the apartments of the home from the 1930s until their respective deaths in 1945 and 1954. Still, the most spectacular legends surrounding the haunting of Poogan's Porch are the sightings. More times than the Charleston Police Department would like to admit, they have been called by the patrons of the hotel next door to the grand old home to report an old woman in a black dress had somehow been locked in the restaurant after hours. When the restaurant's managers were notified of the calls, they got so commonplace that they would say, "Oh, don't worry, that's just Zoe," before hanging up, rolling over, and simply going back to sleep. If you happen to find yourself in Charleston, I highly recommend making Poogan's Porch one of your stops for either lunch or dinner, my little strangelings. Even if you don't necessarily go for the food, I posit you should stop by for one of their delectable craft cocktails utilizing locally sourced spirits from distilleries in the area. This establishment is truly a fantastic taste of Charleston and is one of my very favorites.